Hi and welcome back. Today we are going to be creating some lovely matte envelopes for your wallet. If this is something you're interested in, then please stay tuned because I want to share with you guys the tips and tricks that I've learned to create these envelopes. And I did put the dimension size that you will be working with on the screen. It's going to be 9 inches by 11.5 inches, and that's just going to be the size of the canvas that we'll be working with today. So whenever you go into Canva, you'll be asked to create a design, and always remember to change the units from inches, from px to inches. I usually forget that, so like I said, 9 in width and 11.5 in height. So bring us to this page, which is absolutely blank, and we're gonna go crazy and use our imaginations for this. So I'm gonna take you over to the elements, and this is where we find our shapes, our graphics, everything and anything is in the elements. So we're gonna pick out a square, and what we're gonna do with that square is we're gonna make it 7.5 by 3.2, and this just helps me to see where the envelopes are standing, and as well I want my envelopes to be 6.5, so when I do cut, it's I cut at the 7.5, then I go back and cut it at the 6.5 in length, and then it just gives me the perfect size for the envelopes. And 3.2, it just gives me a little bit of room, so if I want it, I can always cut it to 3.1 or 3. So I want to have a little bit of room for everything basically, and it just works for me. So what we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate these into 3 individual boxes, and this just allows me to see how the design is going to look inside it. And we're going to change those into transparent, so it just goes white, and when you put the design over it, then you'll be able to see how the design looks inside the squares. And what we're going to do also is we're going to make sure that we position them that they're all aligned, and if you see that the tidy box says is black, then you can go ahead and click it, but if it's gray, then it means you're all aligned. What we're going to do next is we're going to go into graphics, and it's just so fun to go into the graphics side of things because you get to choose your patterns and stuff like that. And I kind of didn't click on the graphics, I just typed it in. You can do that too. And in this particular video, I just kind of wanted to go for something with floral patterns, but I'll show you guys there's other types of patterns that are available on Canva. So you can do abstract, you can do hearts, you can do flowers, you can do stars, you can do pretty much any type of graphic that you want into your envelopes. And once you get the hang of Canva, you can even make your own, and you really don't even have to rely on it. But if you are just kind of in the learning phase, then I would suggest you use this. As you can see, there's stars, there's so much, and you can also use the AI generation aspect of it too, which works very well. It's just that I don't use AI. I just kind of like to, browse through the graphics most times because I don't want to think, and I don't like to come up with prompts. They're just too much, but that is available to you too if you do want to go AI. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and choose a green floral type pattern, and I always include the word pattern when I want something like a pattern phase or just something that has a lot of different patterns and stuff like that. I just like it. It just lets me know that, hey, like it just brings up all the pattern type designs, and I really just wanted something green. I don't know, because I have a new wallet that's mint green, so I kind of wanted everything to work together and look nice together. But yeah, so you'll see me kind of going back and forth, but yeah, I'll let you guys just watch this part and then I'll be right back. So once I add the design in, I go ahead and see how everything looks. And what I do is I pick out another square, and this is for the label, and I make sure that it's 1 inch high. I think that's the perfect size when it comes to adding the font inside a box. And one other thing that I do is I go ahead and add some borders. This just really lets me see how the envelope is going to look once I print it out and within the design, if I like the design the way it is. And just keep in mind, I'm not going to be printing out the borders. I will be erasing them off once I'm done lining things up the way I want them to look. And this just gives me a bit of a visual when it comes to the printing part. And it also gives me a little bit of fun play time to kind of see where I want to put the labels. Do I want it to be in the corner? Do I want it to be in the middle? Do I even want it to be in the bottom right corner, bottom left corner? It really just depends on preference at the moment. But for this particular video, I just kind of went with something very easy and very classic. I didn't want to confuse anybody and stuff like that, so I just went with something in the middle that is just your standard label. And one thing I do is I make sure that I highlight the box with the label, and I go ahead and see if it's centered, and if the center is gray, then that means it's centered inside the box. And it's just, you kind of have to always make sure that everything is well centered. And I don't think I show you guys how I centered inside the page. And what I do with that is I just go ahead and group them all together once I have all my labels, my text, everything added on there. And I group them together, and then I go ahead and center it and put it, and also make sure that it's in the middle of the page once I'm done everything. But I don't think I show you guys in this part, but I'm just letting you guys know. And it's very easy to group. You just basically highlight everything, all the boxes together along with the labels and the text, and then you go ahead and group. And then once you group, you'll see that it's just one piece of entity, I guess you can say. And then you go ahead and go to the position, and then you press center and middle, and then it'll be perfectly centered and in the middle for you to print, and then cut them into even size individual pieces. This is kind of how I learned eventually that after making so much mistakes, you eventually kind of come to learn, hey, I should probably add this, and I should probably do this. It just comes with mistakes and learning and all that stuff. So I'll leave you guys here until I'm ready to cut up the pages. So we're going to save this in a PDF rather than a PNG, just because the PDF gives you pages, and PNGs kind of give you individual pages, and then you'd have to do a zip drive thing. It's confusing. When you do PDF, you just kind of access it right away, and since this is something you're going to print, then it's just easier to go with the PDF file. And so once you save it, you go ahead and print it, and then you go ahead and we start the cutting process. So what you're going to need in order to cut your envelopes, you're going to need obviously a laminator, you're going to need a paper cutter, and you're going to need a 6-punch hole puncher. Yeah. So, and these are the materials that you're going to be using as well. A vellum paper, or you could also use regular printing paper, but I just think a vellum paper works well with this. And also, if you are going to do paper, get like a paper that's good quality, which will work a little bit better. And that's just for the ink aspect of things. And this paper cutter has been with me for for years, and as well as the hole puncher. So make sure you have a six punch hole puncher. Is that it? And you're going to use a matte vellum, and you're going to need 2 of them. One is going to be a 3 ml and one is going to be a 5 ml. And the difference is the 3 ml is a little bit more thinner, and that's going to be the inner part of the envelope, whereas the outer part is going to be the 5 ml, which is a lot more sturdier, a lot more thicker, and that's going to make sure that your envelopes don't come apart. And so once we get those materials, then we can go ahead and start cutting them up. And we're not going to be cutting up the 5 ml, we're just going to be cutting up the 3 ml. And when it comes to cutting, we're going to start at 7.5. Remember, our design is 7.5 long, and then what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over and cut it up into 6.5, and that's just going to give us the right sizing for the envelope. And it just makes it easier to when you are cutting up your vellum, you're going to also cut it at 6.5 rather than 7.5, because by then it'll be easier to just do it that way. And if there's any, I don't know if there's anything that I'm missing. And then once we are done cutting it in the length of it being 6.5, we're going to go ahead and cut it at 3.2 or 3.1. But one thing I've noticed is when I'm cutting the top parts, it's a little bit different because it allocates the extra parts of the design. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So in the top part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it at 3.6, and that just pretty much makes sure that I don't cut into the next envelope label, the other part. And then so once I line it up at 3.6, I am able to cut it at 3.1 or 3. And this has just kind of been the way that has been working for me. And I make sure to cut the ends off too, so that I don't have additional things in there. So like I was saying, so we're going to cut the top part at 3.6, and that just gives us the right amount of space between envelopes, or labels I should say, or inserts I should say. I don't know what to call it, but it just gives us the right amount of spaces to cut in between the top part, the middle part, and at the end. So the top and the middle, the top and the bottom are kind of the ones that you kind of have to allocate the extra spaces that are going to be in there because of how it was printed. So as you can see, the top looks very long, so we're going to go ahead and go back, and now we're going to go and make it about 3.2. That's where I'm at. So I'm going to cut at 3.2, and that's it. And then as you can see, now it looks like it's perfectly lined up and it looks well centered. And then we're going to go ahead and do the second one, and the second one's going to be even easier. So this one is already centered, so we're just going to go ahead and do 3.2, and that's what it's going to be. And you don't have to do 3.2. I think this is 3.1, but you can always do 3 as well, or 2.8. It really depends on your preference, and I just like mine a little bit more wider. So after we're done doing all that, we're gonna go ahead and start cutting up our 3 ml, because that's the only one that we're cutting. We're not cutting the 5 ml. We don't need to cut the 5 ml. The 5 ml is our outer, okay? And I just like to trim the bottom off so that I have a bit of a more, I don't know, I just do it. So we're gonna go ahead and line that up at 6.5, because we don't need to do 7.5 now. We just have to cut it to 6.5, and make sure that your envelope and that's that they line up. So the laminate and the vellum have to line up. There can't be spaces between them, or otherwise you're gonna get air pockets and stuff like that. So if it's 6.5 long, then then the laminate has to be 6.5. You can't do 6.6, or it's gonna allow air bubbles. That's what I've found with my envelopes. And then what we're gonna do next is, after we're done cutting them up, and I like to keep the top on so it doesn't move around, is we're gonna go ahead and start assembling our envelopes, which is the fun part, of course. And one thing I found when it comes to working with matte envelopes is that it's just easier to line them up versus the glossy. The glossy is a headache because once you flip those over, they're both glossy and they can't stay. But the matte is a little bit more sturdier, it just stays and it doesn't move around too much. And always make sure that you take them apart and flip them, and that you have the matter side and the outside, and then the bit of a slippery side and the inside. That way they will not be stuck together once you cut them up and try to open them. And I always leave a little bit open at the top of the envelope so that it's easier to cut. And yes, I forgot to mention this part. So when I'm doing the length doesn't have to, the length of the paper and the envelope have to match, but the height, you can add an extra bit of height so that way it's easier for you to cut off the top, and then doesn't allow your envelopes to break apart. And this takes a lot of learning, honestly. In the beginning, when I first started doing this, I was so confused. I used to mess up so much, and sometimes and in the beginning I didn't even buy the 5 ml the 5 ml. I just went ahead and just got 3 mls, and I was wondering why my envelopes were so flimsy. And then I started doing some research and realized, oh, everyone's using 5 ml on the outside and the inside is 3 ml. So yeah, but in the end, everything's pretty much a learning curve. And once you understand how this works, then it's going to become very easy eventually. Even from the designing, the cutting, the laminating, everything just becomes very easy. And now we're just going to go ahead and cut up everything, and I will tell you guys how I do this part. I don't really mind the top. I'll just cut it off. It doesn't matter. Even if it's open, it doesn't bother me. So for me, when it comes to the end of the envelope where I'm going to be hole punching, that's the part where I make sure that I have about 1 inch or 1.5 inch, really depends. And I usually just line it up with the end of the 1 inch line on the bottom of the cutter, and that usually works. And then what I do after that is I go ahead, and if I have little corners like that are a little bit bended, I just go ahead and put it through the laminator one more time, and it just goes ahead and gets rid of it. So I usually just line it up right there at the edge, and works for me all the time. So then when the time comes for me to cut it, I go ahead and line it up one more time, and I want them to be 10 I think it's at the 10 inches, is it? I'm not sure if it's 10 inches or 10 centimeters. Don't quote me on that. But one thing I also have is this little washi tape there, and that just lets me know where to cut on the sides. And sometimes my sides might be too close on one end, so I kind of have to eyeball it. But most times, I've gotten used to doing this so much that I kind of know where I can cut and where I can't cut, and it just takes some practice. But if you do see that you're getting too close, usually you'll know you're getting too close if you see the little I think they're like air bubbles, or just like there's a little line of demarcation there. If you go get close to that, then yeah, you're gonna probably have it open. It's gonna open up on you. And I've tried to reseal it with laminate, but it doesn't laminating, but it doesn't work. So be careful as to how close you can get to those sidelines. But aside from that, it's very easy. And then all you have left at the end is to cut off the top, and then I go ahead and reline it up one more time for my edges of the bottom where I'm going to be hole punching. And if everything matches up to be 10, then I'm good. And as you guys can see, I still have a little bit of space, and the envelopes come out very nice and very sturdy. And after all that is done, I just go ahead and start hole punching. That's about it. And it does, like I said, it takes some time to learn all this, but once you get the hang of it, then you get the hang of it. But yeah, so I'll just let you guys continue watching this part, and I will see you guys probably on the next video. I hope you guys enjoy it. And just a little clarification, I do when I do the 6-punch hole punch, I usually have it set to personal, and there's a personal line right there. And just keep if you do have that hole puncher, sometimes these things do tend to move. I always try to reset them and make sure that I don't just go ahead and hole punch right away. But if I see that it's moving, then I just kind of go back and I use like a piece of paper to see if everything matches. But most times it's been pretty good, so it doesn't move for me as much as I usually think it does. But yeah, so there's always going back and forth. Sometimes I do find that I cut a little bit more on the other, and that's why I have those extra little places for extra spaces for error. So once I do figure out where I made the mistake, then I can always just trim a little bit off, and it usually just works and it's fine. But yeah, so I'll leave you guys to the end of the video. If you guys have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this type of content, do feel free to share, and also feel free to subscribe. I would love you to be part of the family. And this is my first tutorial doing this, so please be gentle with me. I've worked really hard on this, and yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this, and let me know if these have been helpful tips for you, and if there's something else that you guys would like to see. And I will see you guys on the next one. All right, bye.